Hey everyone, welcome to Broadband Deployment News. The USDA has announced that they'll be awarding over $671 million in ReConnect funds to 24 or so states. And that there's one state in particular where it's 37 locations and it's going to average about $1 million, almost $1 million per location. Can you guess which state that is? I'll be right back with the details. Hey there, Rick Husey with Broadband Deployment News. So, as I say here, you see Biden-Harris administration announces nearly $700 million, it's actually $671 million, to connect people in remote and rural areas to high-speed internet. USDA Secretary Tom Vilsack announced that. And grants and loans to connect thousands of rural residents, farmers, and business owners in 22 states and the Marshall Islands to reliable, affordable high-speed internet through the ReConnect program funded by President Biden's bipartisan infrastructure law. So the ReConnect program, it's been around for years, and it's something that I think it's funded. I believe that's through the Farm Bill every so many years. But the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the same one that funds is funding the $42.45 billion for the BEAD program, also kicked in $2 billion approximately for ReConnect to kind of put more money in the ReConnect program. Now, ReConnect it's something, again, through the USDA, so it is specifically for very rural areas. A lot of times it's farm areas, and if you look at the programs, basically you can either get 100% grant, 100% loan, or a combination, 50% grant and 50% loan. And you can see here, there's one specifically for Alaska Native corporations, tribal governments, and then also they just say any area, I think, that's a socially vulnerable community, and I'll explain what that is in a minute. And they're supposed to get 100 meg symmetrical when they get money from these programs. You can see one difference here on this, on the tribal and socially vulnerable communities. There's no match required. These are, though, whenever you see the grant, excuse me, it's a competitive process. And the loans, the full 100% loan is not. It's a 2% loan, which is a good interest rate, but there's no competitive grants required on that. And then you've got the combos, that's a 50-50. You've got 100% grant here, as you can see also. These require a 25% match. And then you've got a 100% grant here. Different projects serving areas where 90% of the households lack sufficient access to broadband. That is also a competitive process. No match is required there when there's so many places that don't lack sufficient broadband. So I've linked to this, and I've linked to the press release down in the description of this video, so you can read more about that. But I did want to talk a little bit more about who's getting what. So first off, these socially vulnerable communities. So this is also from the USDA site. Communities' ability to respond to, and this is the definition, a community's ability to respond to disasters, health emergencies, and other challenges depends in part on individual and communal resources and capacities. The CDC has developed a social vulnerability index based upon 16 social factors, including, among others, poverty, unemployment, housing cost burden, education, health insurance, age, racial and ethnic minority status, housing type, and crowding and vehicle access. So those are some of the things that go into this, determining whether this is a socially vulnerable community. And as in that press release, there's a link to all of the projects, and I'm not going to make you read this right now. I do have it broken down a little bit, but as you look at some of these, you do see that quite a few of them, as you go through it, show that they're socially vulnerable communities. So you see here, socially vulnerable community. In some cases, they are also tribal communities as well, but they don't have to be. You see the same thing there, socially vulnerable. There's a tribal area there. This is socially vulnerable communities in Phillips County, et cetera. So again, you can link to this and see all the information about who got the grants, what states they're in, what providers and whatnot. I did want to break this down a little bit so it's a little bit easier to see. And then something else that I like to do is always look at how much it is per location. So that's how I can tell you that there's some areas that are getting almost $1 million. So first, these are all alphabetical as far as states go here. So you got your states, the program as to whether it's a grant or a loan grant or just a loan. You've got who the recipient is. So for USDA ReConnect, unlike something like BEAD or ARPA, it goes directly to the internet service provider. So it goes to the provider, the telephone company, or whoever it is that's providing the service. A lot of times it is a phone company, like a rural independent telephone company. And then you can see how much of it is a grant, a loan, or in some cases just one or the other, like a grant. In this case, it's a 100% grant. This is a combo, and this is a 100% loan right here. So let's look at these. So then I've got kind of highlighted here the total that they're getting. So that would be, again, whether it's, here you've got a grant and a loan, the total is $13 million, 13.5. And then how many locations? So I added up how many locations there are. So if you look at this, it shows you how many locations, for example, this will benefit 697 people and 38 businesses and 7 educational facilities. And then a lot of times it'll say, and 104 farms. So I just added all of those up and counted those as locations. So this first one in Alaska, you see here, this is Bush-Tel, 735 locations, and they're getting almost 30 million. So that's $40,000 per location. So that's a lot, but we're talking about very rural areas here. So a lot of times you do see a small number of locations in a state might come up to that. Now Alaska is going to be very difficult to serve, and I'll show a picture of it here in a minute once I get to this number. So the more, a lot of times that you'll see on these really, really high ones, it's just a small number of locations because those are the really, really difficult places to serve. But here you've got in Alaska, 735 that are going to cost over $40,000 each to reach. So that's providing internet, and you see 735 locations. So basically it's fiber to 697 people, 38 businesses, and 7 schools, 7 educational facilities. Then here you've got 35 million, and this is more closer to 1,500 here, about 23,000 per location, 1,472 people, 22 businesses, and 2 educational facilities. Then you got the big nut here, almost $35 million to 37 locations. So that comes out to $943,378 per location. So that's a huge amount of money. That's to deploy HFC, hybrid fiber coax, and fixed wireless, unlicensed fixed wireless, to 28 people, 8 businesses, and 1 educational facility. And then I put a little more info here. This project will serve the Hoonah, Alaska Native Village Statistical Area. So you can find all those details in that PDF that I was showing you. So again, almost $1 million per location, but this is Alaska, and I've talked about Alaska recently, where this is the area that we're talking about right here. And you can see it's a big state, obviously. It goes all the way out to here, comes down to here. This is the whole state of Alaska. It's actually about a fifth the size of the lower 48s. If you look at the lower 48s, it's about a fifth of the size. It is bigger than the next 3 biggest states, which would be Texas, California, and Montana. So Alaska is actually bigger than those 3 states, the next 3 biggest states, California, Texas, and Montana. It's not quite as big as Mexico, but Mexico is about a third bigger, the country of Mexico. So anyway, this is the area. So as I zoom in on this, you can see the challenges in Alaska. So you've got this particular very small portion of Alaska where you've got 37 people in this area that have got to be covered, and it's going to be almost $1 million. And it's interesting that it's, they're talking about cable plant and fixed wireless. It's interesting that it's not fiber. And I'm not sure why, unless the provider there already has cable infrastructure and they're going to be somehow making use of that. Or if somehow maybe the coax, they're going to have to go fiber to a certain extent anyway to get to, I would think, to get to some of these outstretched areas. And then maybe it's coax, last mile or miles of the service coax. And maybe that is more resilient physically with the harsh conditions that you might have here. I don't know. It might have to do with the amount of water. I'm not sure why, but they're doing, I can understand fixed wireless, but they're also doing HFC. It doesn't mention fiber at all on that one. So that's that one. So that's the big one. And then, you got a lot of others. So you'll see it's going to vary again. So here you got 1,400 locations. This is in Arkansas, 11,738 per location. Here you've got Fort Mojave Telecom, 13 million, but 3,000, almost 3,100 locations, 4,300 per location. That's deploying fiber. Then we're bumping back up to 32,000 per location here in California. Let's see what else is there. A lot of these are, 3,000, 5,000, 5,000, 3,000. Here's 16,000. That's Total Communications in Kansas. And you'll see here as you get into the, we're not seeing this in Alaska, obviously. I don't know how many farms are in Alaska, but as you look at, the center, kind of the center of the country, you'll see here you've got 12 farms, you've got 19 farms, 39 farms, 33 farms. What do we got? 60 farms. So, there you're talking about large swaths of area, similar to Alaska, except the difference is that, it's farming communities. It's not that it's just, a vast amount of area, kind of tundra or I don't know what you'd call it. But it's not very populated. It's not very populated on these farms, but that's because that vast amount of area is being used for farm, and it's not just remote. If that's a better way to put it, it's not really remote compared to something like Alaska. Again, here 256 farms. So this is Northeast Missouri Rural Telephone. It's going to be doing that in Missouri. That's a 100% grant, 8.8 million. 1,459 locations, 256 of those are farms. So that's about 6,000 per location. So again, you see a lot of numbers that are not that huge. Then you got 60,000 almost here. This is Beehive Telephone in Nevada. So this one was surprising to me. So this is to deploy fiber to 10 people in White Pine County in Nevada. So that's 10 people that it's going to cost almost $60,000. So again, it's not unheard of if you've got really long distances for this to be the kind of number that you're looking at. So again, that's Beehive Telephone. And something that this, if you think about this, these are all locations that will not have to be served by BEAD funding because they're going to get funding through USDA ReConnect. So I'm assuming, I don't know this for sure, but I'm assuming that since this was just now awarded, that these locations were still on the map when the NTIA allocated or determined how much money each state was going to get. I could be wrong. I mean, maybe the USDA said, hey, we're going to be awarding these funds to these areas and these states, so you can take them out of your calculation. And maybe that's the case. I hope that's not the case because this money would then, again, be taking these locations off the board, and it would allow those states like Alaska to not have to worry about those 37 locations when they get their BEAD funding. That'll already be taken care of. Or these 10 locations here in Nevada, these will already be taken care of, assuming that, again, this was not included in the BEAD calculations. I don't know that for sure. But the BEAD allocations were announced at the end of August, I think. No, I don't know. We're at the end of August now. I forget when it was, end of June, I think. So, maybe these are locations that are not included in that calculation. So, again, you've got here, this is 119,000. So this, I think, was the second biggest one. So this is Sycamore Telephone Company in Ohio to deploy fiber to 38 people and 4 farms in Seneca, Crawford, and Wyandotte counties in Ohio. So this one blew me away because this is in Ohio, in the center of the United States. 38 people, 4 farms, and 4 farms. So I looked at Seneca. This is Seneca County. So as you look at these and you zoom in, it does look like lots of farmland. But again, there's only a few farms that are being covered and 38 people. And it's 3 counties. This is Crawford County. It looks very similar when you zoom in. This is Wyandotte. Looks very similar when you zoom in here. You got some city, towns kinds of areas, and then lots of outlying areas, which is what you see this all over the country. You see this in my state, in Georgia, where you've got towns, and then you've got lots of areas in between the towns and the counties that are not served. So I pulled up, I think I pulled up Seneca. Yeah, I pulled up Seneca. So this is, what do we got here? This is, it's hard to read. Tiffin, I think, this area in Seneca. So I pulled that up on the broadband map, the FCC broadband map. So here you see Tiffin. And, and I took off, I selected just wired coverage. So I took off wireless and just selected wired over 25 by 3. Excuse me, under 25 by 3. So that would, over 25 by 3. So that's right. So basically anything that's over 25 by 3 and wired is what I selected. So you can see a lot of these areas, it says 100%, 99% in this area. Then you've got some, that's 34%. 9%, 3%, 8% over here, 0, 0. So I zoomed in on the 0 just to see what was there. So this is that same general area. So again, what you're seeing here, to me, looks like small farms. Now, again, maybe these are considered individuals, but it's even not that many individuals. So, I'm assuming it's these kinds of areas that are showing that they're not served, 0% served, that are getting this. Again, it looks to me like these are small farms. You've got, this is farmland, obviously. Farmland all next to some of these, I think, most likely. So, but again, as you look at the numbers, it's 38 people and 4 farms in those 3 counties. So that one just kind of blows me away, because it looks like there could be lots and lots of people that don't have service in that area, and they'll obviously have to wait for BEAD funding to get that. And then we've got 22,000 here in Oklahoma, 10,000. So again, the numbers are going to vary. 86,000 here, Poca Lombro Telephone in Texas. Don't have that completely. If I make that bigger. Hold on here. That's to deploy fiber and fixed wireless unlicensed spectrum to 238 people, 6 businesses, and 39 farms, and 2 educational facilities. So that's 86,000 per location. So I'm assuming most of that is going to be fiber because of the cost. And it may have gone way up had it been everything fiber. It may have been way higher than 186, or excuse me, than 86. Might have been closer to 186. 1,300, so that's to deploy fiber to, now this is crazy, to deploy fiber to 17,352 people, 1,018 businesses, 37 farms, and 49 educational facilities. This is in Virginia, Scott Telephone. So, this is an area, Virginia is going to be much different than Texas, obviously much different than Alaska. 37 farms, though, here in Virginia, but again, only $1,355 because it's 18,000 people. So 18,000 people versus 285, and it's almost the same amount of money, 25 million. So there you go. Here's almost 25,000, 24,195. This is Public Utility District of Okanogan. Deploy fiber to 1,157 people, 21 businesses, 68 farms, and 2 educational facilities. So, and here's, again, something interesting. So when you take all of these and total them up, it comes out to just over $5,000 per location. So I had to look back at that. It's like, how is that possible when I'm talking about almost $1 million to some locations? You're talking about $86,000 to some, $119,000 to some. How could it be an average of $5,000? Well, it's because you've got, again, these really, really expensive, hard to serve areas. There's just not as many of those. So you've got 10,000 locations here at $2,000 or $2,600 in Wisconsin. That's going to be serving 9,661 people, 319 businesses, 689 farms, and 8 educational facilities. And it's $2,600 approximately per location. So, again, smaller number of locations like 37 in Alaska, almost $1 million, but it all kind of balances out to be just about $5,000 per location, which is very reasonable when you look at the overall total. So I just hope that in these areas, it's not so much in Alaska. When I look at that area, I go, okay, I get it. But I hope some of these other areas, like these 38 people and 4 farms, I hope somebody's really taking a close look at that and why it's costing that much. And I'm not saying it certainly could not cost that much. I mean, if you got these areas that it's going to be like, this is the only way we can do it. And in this case, they decided to do it all fiber, 119,000. Then again, that's just how much it's going to cost. And that's money that does not need to be spent. You don't need to be spending almost $120,000 per location from BEAD money. It's already taken care of. Now, again, I don't know whether that is in the calculation already. But just find that interesting. And, I think there's probably still more USDA money out there. So I don't know how that works moving forward. Eventually the states, again, if this information has not been made available to the states or was not made available earlier, the states can now look at this and go, okay, here's areas we don't need to worry about. Or maybe they already know this. I don't know. So again, USDA doing as they have done in the past, a lot of work to be able to make some of these really most rural areas, a lot of times farming communities, it is the Department of Agriculture, but Alaska, no farms, right? So again, these really most remote locations are able to get broadband deployed through the USDA ReConnect program. Loans, grants, or a combination of the two. So in some cases, this money is going to be paid back. So when there's a loan, again, it's a 2% loan, so it's a really good interest rate, but that money will be paid back in those cases. And in some cases that we see, there's a 25% match. In some cases, there's no match. So if there's a 25% match, then that's good. There's additional money there as well. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. Don't forget what we do. If you are a broadband provider or a broadband office looking to help broadband providers, we provide managed broadband services and support to broadband providers. Everything from diagnostics, device activation, hosted email, voice over IP, hosted voice over IP, cloud-based hosted IPTV, end-user tech support for voice, data, and video, all those kinds of things you can get from us. So check us out, zcorm.com. If you have an interest, just give us a call or send us an email. You see info at zcorm.com. Well, excuse me, at zcorm.com. I will get that, and I will then forward that to the right people, and I will let my voice rest and hopefully see you next time for Broadband Deployment News. Take care. Bye-bye.